Most legacy giants don't die because they miss one technology. They die because their entire business model is built for a world that no longer exists. IBM should have been one of them. Hardware-heavy, slow, written off as old tech, while cloud-native players ate its lunch. So how do you pivot a company that big, that late in the game? IBM made one radical digital bet that rewired what it sold and how it got paid. Stay with me, because you'll walk away with a playbook you can apply to any legacy business you touch. How IBM got cornered by its own success. To really understand IBM's pivot, you need to see the trap it built for itself. For decades, IBM was the mainframe king. Big iron and big data centers, backed by complex hardware contracts and highly specialized support. That model worked in an era when computing power was scarce, centralized, and insanely expensive. IBM's strength was reliability and scale, but that strength came with rigidity. Then the world shifted. First with personal computers, then with distributed networks, then with cloud and software as a service. Computing power stopped being something you bought in giant boxes every few years and started being something you consumed on demand. The economics flipped. IBM's old model depended on big, lumpy hardware sales, huge capital expenditure deals, long sales cycles, custom installations, margins that were strong for a while but got squeezed as hardware got commoditized and competitors undercut on price. At the same time, new players built their businesses around software, data, and cloud services. They weren't carrying the weight of factories, legacy hardware lines, and decades of "this is how we've always done it." They could move faster, deliver value as a service, and lock in recurring revenue. Inside IBM, you had all the classic legacy constraints. A culture used to celebrating units shipped and big hardware wins. Product roadmaps tied to physical machines. Revenue expectations built on periodic spikes rather than steady compounding streams. The stakes were simple and brutal. Either change the engine mid-flight or accept a slow slide into irrelevance. Just making hardware a bit better or bolting on a website was never going to be enough. This is where a lot of companies in the same position go wrong. They digitize around the edges, some new tools, some online channels, but they don't change what they're fundamentally selling. IBM did something different. It didn't just add digital, it rewired its core from "we sell boxes" to "we sell brains and outcomes," which sets us up for the real story. The single pivot that turned IBM from a hardware vendor into a services and solutions platform. The core pivot, from hardware vendor to services and solutions platform. Here's the heart of IBM's move. The one digital pivot was this: shift from selling boxes to selling brains. From being a hardware manufacturer to being a services, software, and solutions powerhouse that uses technology as a means, not the end. For a company built on machines, that was radical. First, it cannibalized its own hardware revenue. When you tell customers, "don't just buy this server, let us run, integrate, and optimize your whole environment," you're implicitly saying the box itself isn't the hero anymore. The value shifts to the expertise, the integration, the ongoing service. Second, it forced IBM to prioritize recurring, high-margin digital services over one-time product shipments. That's a completely different business rhythm. Instead of chasing the next big deal, the focus moved to building long-term, embedded relationships where IBM became part of the client's operating system. Let's break down the strategic pillars behind that pivot. Pillar 1. Build a high-value consulting and IT services engine. IBM leaned hard into helping clients navigate their own digital transformations, strategy, architecture, integration, operations. That meant hiring, retraining, and restructuring around client problems, not product lines. Pillar 2. Shift the portfolio towards software, data, and cloud. Instead of leading with, "here's the hardware we can sell you," IBM leaned into software platforms, analytics, and cloud-based services. Hardware was still there, but it became an enabler inside bigger solutions. Pillar 3. Use hardware as a supporting actor. Servers, storage, and mainframes became part of integrated solutions that IBM designed, managed, and evolved over time. On the business model side, That meant moving from one-time CapEx deals to ongoing service and solution contracts. Think managed services, outsourcing, consulting retainers, cloud consumption, support agreements. Now, how did they make this digital first in practice? They standardized methodologies and tooling so services could be delivered at scale, not as one-off hero projects. They turned know-how into repeatable, software-enabled solutions, frameworks, platforms, reusable components that could be deployed again and again. They also invested heavily in integration capabilities. The goal was clear: sit at the center of the client's tech stack. If IBM understood and integrated everything, from legacy systems to new cloud apps, it became very hard to replace. Culturally, this required a massive shift. Success could no longer be measured by units shipped or the sheer size of a hardware contract. The new scoreboard was problem solved and value delivered over time. Sales incentives had to move from chasing hardware quotas to closing and expanding long-term service relationships. That's painful. It means telling high-performing hardware sales teams that the old game is over. It means accepting a period where revenue might look messy while you rebuild your core around services. But this is the courage part of the story. IBM accepted short-term pain to build a more defensible, digital-first core. Instead of clinging to the identity of a hardware company, it committed to becoming a services and solutions platform that happened to have powerful technology in its toolkit. The key takeaway for you isn't be like IBM, it's to understand the underlying logic. Redefine what you sell from product to outcome, wrap it in digital and services, and align your entire model around recurring value. Next, we'll turn that logic into a transformation playbook you can apply to any legacy business, whether you're running a manufacturer, a retailer, or a B2B service provider. The Transformation Playbook: how to apply IBM's pivot logic to any legacy company. So, how do you take this from interesting IBM case study to something you can actually use? You're not IBM. You don't have their balance sheet or brand, but the logic behind their pivot is portable. Think of it as 5 decisions, not 5 theories. First, redefine what you really sell. Most legacy companies think in terms of products, boxes, units, SKUs. Customers don't care about any of that. They care about outcomes. Reliability, speed, uptime, insight, less hassle. If you're a manufacturer, your customer doesn't really want the machine. They want guaranteed throughput. If you're a retailer, they don't want shelves. They want the right product in the right place at the right time. Once you see that clearly, the IBM move makes sense. They stopped being a hardware company and started being a partner that delivers business outcomes with technology. Which brings us to the second principle: wrap services and digital around your core. Ask, where can our expertise, data, and software sit around this product? Maybe it's remote monitoring, predictive maintenance, training portals, integration help, analytics dashboards. You want to turn one-off projects into standardized, repeatable solutions. Instead of doing custom favors, package them, name them, price them. Document how you deliver them so anyone on your team can run the play. Then convert every service touchpoint into an ongoing engagement. Installation becomes a managed service. Support becomes a subscription. Quarterly check-ins become a structured optimization program. Third, shift revenue from one-off to recurring. IBM's real pivot was economic. You need to explore subscription, managed service, or performance-based models that line your incentives up with the customer's success over time. Design offers that keep you embedded in their operations. We'll run this for you. We'll guarantee this outcome. We'll stay until this metric holds. Your renewal conversation should feel less like, "Do you want more stuff?" and more like, "Do you still want this result?" Internally, that means sales can't be rewarded only on spikes. You need compensation plans and targets that value expansion, renewals, and customer lifetime value. Fourth principle: use digital to scale expertise, not just operations. Most digital transformations stop at automating back-office work. That's table stakes. The move that matters is capturing your best practices in tools, platforms, and playbooks. Take what your top people do intuitively: diagnostics, recommendations, optimizations, and build simple digital layers around it. Use analytics and data insights as part of your value proposition. Each engagement should make your models, benchmarks, and recommendations smarter. Over time, your digital IP becomes the moat, not the physical product. Finally, you have to make the hard internal trade-offs. You can't keep measuring success by units shipped and then act surprised when everyone resists the pivot. You need to realign KPIs around relationship value, retention, share of wallet, outcomes delivered. Keep this framework in mind as we move forward, because now we're going to turn it into a concrete 12 to 24-month roadmap. Execution roadmap, turning the pivot into a 12 to 24-month plan. Let's break this into a plan you can actually run. Step 1. Diagnose your current value engine. Lay out in simple terms where your revenue really comes from today. Which lines are high margin? Which are fragile, commoditized, or easily undercut? Identify the parts that would hurt most if a digital native competitor walked in tomorrow. Step 2. Identify your services and solutions wedge. Look at where customers are already asking for help, support, integration, or advice. Those requests are signals. Which of those could you turn into standardized, digital-enabled offers instead of bespoke favors? Step 3. Design one flagship digital-led offer, not 5. 1. A bundled solution that combines your product, your expertise, and ongoing service. Define the outcome, the pricing model, and exactly how renewal works. Step 4. Build a small, cross-functional pivot squad. You need people from sales, operations, product, or IT and finance around one table. Their mandate is clear. Get this new offer into the market, learn fast, and protect it from being dragged back into old rules and processes. Step 5. Run focused pilots with your best fit customers. Pick customers who trust you and have complex enough problems to benefit from a solution, not just a product. Be transparent that this is a new model. Capture outcomes, feedback, and operational lessons aggressively. Step 6. Codify and scale. Turn what worked into playbooks, tools, and training. Update incentives, metrics, and reporting so the new model isn't constantly losing to the old one on paper. This is non-negotiable. If you judge the new model by legacy metrics, it will always look worse and you'll quietly kill it. When you look at a 12 to 24-month horizon, this isn't about transforming everything overnight. It's about proving, scaling, and normalizing a new way of defining and delivering value. The real lesson behind IBM's survival. The real lesson in IBM's survival is simple. It stopped being defined by what it used to sell and started being defined by the problems it could solve digitally, over time. Any legacy company can use that lens. Product to outcome, one-off to recurring, hardware to services and solutions. The question is whether you'll make the trade-offs before you're forced to. Identify one product in your world that you could reframe as a digital-enabled service and drop it in the comments. If you want more breakdowns like this and how to apply them to your own career or business, hit subscribe and stick around.